Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is Umzansi Season 4, and we are sitting on what is our final day here of week number 4. It is the last chance for some of these teams to put some points on the board. So we've got some very, very spicy things coming up today. And of course, it is your boy Patchy, and joining me is Iro. Say hi, Iro. How you doing today?
I'm excited and nervous for some of these teams, like you mentioned, that is their very last day to squeeze out of that promotion, relegation phases, and so forth. So, yeah, man, I'm excited and nervous at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think some of those teams are going to agree with you on that as well. Some excitement, some nervousness for some of those teams that may not be able to escape out of their dark fate, which is of course relegation. And of course, to be able to do that, we have 3 games coming up today in order. Of course, that being our game number 1, Erangel, the bread and butter map that we know and love, that we've seen all season long, and that we will continue to see as the season progresses. And then, of course, map number 2 is going to happen at 1945 CAT, which is going to be after the Sanhok. And then map number 3 is Miramar, as per usual, taking the teams through the run-of-the-mill stuff, making sure that they are tested at every single turn, whether it is close quarters, whether it's long range, whether it's rotations. You know that these teams are going to be under pressure to perform. But I think now that we're at the end of our round, as the round is coming to a close, and now that we're at the last day of this week's games, I think some of those teams are, I think that the pressure is off their shoulders. Some of those teams we were seeing yesterday, for instance, sitting at the top of the log, they did not feel the pressure to perform at all. They're sitting quite happy. The burden is very light on their shoulders. So let's take a look, Ira, if you will. Just which teams are you really impressed with so far in this round?
Honestly, it has to be, KHK, Esports Africa, the youngsters coming out from the Nkosi Super Cup. To see them second is amazing. But we are seeing that G3 temper, sort of make a consistent play into season 4 yet again. And it's amazing just to see how they pulled up their socks. They stopped wasting any of their time. And other than that, also you can see seven sins art of killings here on the first page. So yeah, really, really proud of these guys who came into the season 4 of Umzansi to really do the best they can.
Yeah, I have to say I'm right with you there. It is great to see those teams coming out of the Nkosi Super Cup and doing some huge, huge moves here in Umzansi, and we've been seeing that quite consistent. I must say, for me, most impressive things coming out has actually been Solo Esports. That team has been quite impressive to me, at least. No chicken dinners, and yet they're still sitting all the way up here on that second page with a considerable amount of points in the pocket. I do have to agree with you, though. Seeing those Nkosi teams coming up there is always really good to see, because it means that they are keeping things fresh and ready to go. Although some of those heavy hitters from the previous seasons are still around. That, of course, G3 and 4KT, 4KT, whom we have playing today, as well as G3 is going to be in this group. So today's games have the potential to go 2 ways. Either we're going to be seeing, the teams like G3 and 4KT step up for like a final push and really just make a bit of a statement to end off the week, or maybe they'll just chill, lay back, and give somebody else a chance. And in order to see what we're actually going to be seeing here, let's turn our attention down to position number 24 here on your screen. You can see the Natural Killers occupying that space just on the border of that relegation. They are very, very close to it. 79 points for them. Of course, Natural Killers being one of the teams that is playing today. So they have to be careful that they don't get kicked out down into that relegation spot.
Yeah, and another team as well is the Magicians. And the Magicians being, the top of the leaderboard of the Nkosi just before this. Coming into the Mzansi, they just didn't pick up on their side, They didn't show up exactly who they are. And was quite disappointing to see here in the season 4. But, today, maybe they go out with a bang and bring back that magic that we'd so love to see if they are in the group stage today.
Yeah, no, the magicians are indeed in the groups today. So of course, as we move over into our relegation zone, this is the page. Just to remind you, viewers at home, this page is the page that you do not want to find yourself on if you are any of these teams, because this page is going to be going home after this round. Every single one of these teams is not going to be able to make it up into the next round. So you do not want to find yourself here when the round ends. Now, we've got Fear sitting at the top of this last page here. They
Mm.
are currently in the group, as well as Young Thunder and EXO Redefined and Comfy Six. So we've got we've got a lot of teams that have a chance to make it up. So these top three teams, as well as Black Crystal and Ultra Six. So the bottom two teams and the top three teams on this last page all have a chance. 3 games today. 3 games to try and change their fate. It's not impossible. We've seen it done before. One single game with a 30 bomb or 2 15 bombs can potentially change your fate. It depends on how the other teams perform. So the pressure is absolutely huge on these teams' shoulders. There is a lot for them to try and unpack here. So of course, let's quickly go through the groups that we will be seeing just to give you a better picture of what's actually happening. Group B, of course, consisting of Ultra 6, Slime 4KT, Rila Insider, Comfy 6, Young Thunder, Fear, Lag, and C Esports. And quite a few of these teams have been really, really good performers throughout this round so far. 4KT, Rila Insiders, for instance, and C
Mm.
Esports as well, been doing really, really well. So it's not really them that we're looking at. We're looking at Fear. We're looking at Comfy 6 because they have the
Yeah.
biggest sort of pressure on their shoulders right now for these games.
Definitely, definitely. I mean, it comes down to this like very final moment, and with such heavy hitters that we still have in the group D, for example, is it's gonna be quite a dramatic. And here's the magicians also, who are on that second loss of the third page. They're going to need to do well if they don't want to get kicked out of that, because though that last page is going to come through with some passive gameplay to try grab some placements. Because if you think about it here, Patchy, is that they have the most nerves on here. They're not coming in with a lot of confidence, so we're not going to be seeing too many eliminations from maybe a third and fourth page teams that are in this groups to come through with a bang. So I'm expecting some of the most entertaining stacked end games of PUBG, but at the same time, you still got G3 Temple who could potentially just run over the entire lobby, taking advantage over those nerves from these teams.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It is definitely going to be quite an interesting thing to see whether these teams in our relegation page are going to be able to maybe break out of their comfort zone a little bit, just crack open their shell, risk it for the biscuit. I hope that is what happens. I mean, this is the perfect time to make it happen. And of course, the way you do that is on your screen. This is the points distribution that we have for our season. Those top 3 placements giving you double digits, all the way down to 8 through 12 to give you 1 point apiece. And then 13 to 16th position, of course, nets you no points for those placements. It's 1 kill, 1 point as well, which is pretty big in terms of allowing teams to perform a little bit better. We've seen, for instance, I mentioned Solar Esports a little bit earlier, doing really well with their consistency in terms of those kill points as well. So, yeah, I mean, now we've got the burden on our teams in the relegation to move on up. And as a quick reminder of your kill leaders. And I mean, Ira, this is just unsurprising, the numbers that we're seeing here.
I mean, just how's it possible, to see so many like kill leaders quite close to each other? I mean, if you look at Fex, he's got 40, and then Zeke has 39. It's like these guys are absolutely amazing, and the damage that they've managed to bring in throughout the entire season is just so beautiful.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, putting out almost 7k damage, our number 1 kill leader in the form of Fex has just been really tearing it through in round 1, even with the fact that 4KT has been taking a little bit of a back seat when it comes to the last couple of games that we have seen them in. We'll see if they decide to show up today or if they're just going to take it easy, because they have certainly earned their spot at the moment. They don't really have to try hard at the moment. They've basically earned their next round very well. Of course, what are these teams playing for? It's that prize pool, $17,500 in total, 15,000 of which goes for this a PUBG segment right here. So these teams are battling it out for a considerably large prize pool right there. And if that's not enough to get you motivated, then I don't know what is. This is it. You get the
Yep.
clout, you get the money. You may as well register. And of course, if you haven't, then get yourself and your team registered over in the Nkosi Super Cup, and you might just find yourself fighting on this battlefield right here that we are going to be very soon witnessing. But before, of course, we jump into map number 1, let us shoot you a question, Iro. Who do you think is going to be able to make it out of that relegation zone, if any?
Mm, Honestly, I'm gonna say Fear probably is gonna be consistent, or more so the Magicians, because like they showed us consistency in the Nkosi, and that was a late consistent though. If I don't know if you really did follow that one, but it was towards the end that they managed to steal that first place spot from Yonkers, and they managed to get first place. So yes, they're not in the relegation phases just yet, but they could potentially, based off tonight, and that could potentially put them on that wall that, okay, we need to get as much points as we can today and move over to, higher part of the third page, if that's going to be a possibility that we have.
Yeah. Well, it could certainly be the case. We're going to keep our fingers crossed for those teams sitting down in our relegation zone. We'll see if they can make it out. We'll see if they have what it takes. We're going to keep our eyes on Fear, Young Thunder. We're going to keep our eyes on EXO, Redefined, and the Comfy Six as well, and see if they've got what it takes. We will be jumping into map number 1 very, very shortly. If you guys have predictions, you can go and drop them in the chat or tweet us as well, and we might just be able to read those out. But here we go. Let us get into it. Map number 1. It's Erangel as we start things out with quite a nice flight path there from Nova all the way up in towards the north of George.
Yeah, no, and this is going to be interesting. Hopefully, we're going to get some, patchy points if they do go over to military base, which we haven't been seeing very that often, or even rarely at all.
Yeah, they got to give that spot some love, man. It's got to happen. And it looks like we might just be getting a little bit of it. Young Thunder going out for those patchy points nice and early. Non-redeemable, of course, but they'll be heading there. Of course, everyone else has nice open availability for this map. It's a very clean flight path, so I'm sure the teams will be quite happy about that. But I hope that translates into a little bit of confidence. I alluded just a little bit earlier in the beginning that I wanted to see a little bit of that risk it for the biscuit mentality. I think that these teams have nothing to lose right now. I mean, they're already in the relegation page at the moment. We're looking at a team like Fear, for instance. We're looking at a team like Young Thunder, EXO Redefined. What do they have to lose? They're in the relegation. If they don't get anything done now, then they go home. So they may as well take the risk. May as well see if they can, hit it big, just off the back of a little bit of chance or some luck, or maybe just overconfidence.
Exactly, but like you mentioned, having the likes of the G3s, etc., in that promotion standards already. So, they coming in here happy because they can just make mistakes, and it's not going to hurt them at all. They can just continue to W key if they have two members on their squad. If they've lost people early stages, they don't need to worry too much about how an off spawn situation is going to be looking like. And it's the complete opposite for those third and fourth page teams that we have over here. So I am a very much consistent on the topic, because it is generally the highlight of today's matches. If you don't do well today, you could potentially, not make it.
Yeah, absolutely is the case. Of course, the teams have dropped down onto our map. We've got our zone off towards the west, so not too much of a rotate for most of these players. Both Fear and Young Thunder earning themselves 100 patchy points apiece for that very kind drop down to Military Island, showing my favorite spot a little bit of love and making me a little bit happy here today and improving my day just a little bit more, because I've been having a little bit of a down day. So it's good to see that some of the teams have decided to give my favorite spot a little bit of a love. But of course, I don't know if we're going to be seeing anything interesting right in this early game. I mean, one of the things that I seem to have come across as a theme of the end of round number one is that all the teams seem kind of complacent in the beginning of the matches. You know, they're quite happy to sit and get themselves looted and ready and not really take too many fights, which is
Mm.
unfortunate for us because then we don't get to see the fights. You know.
Yeah, we'll get to talk about the teams like Black Crystal, EXO Redefined, Fear, and so forth. Like, who do you think out of that, out of the teams over here, like, you know, that are at the brink of relegation, the last very page, like, get to potentially do the best today? Because you asked me that, but I didn't ask you back.
Yeah, well, that is a good question. Taking a look at those teams there, I would very much like to see. I think I'd like to see EXO redefined, maybe make some moves. They were sort of hovering around the top of the board for quite some time, but they just never
Mm.
managed to get across that. And you know, I like to see a story of perseverance. You know, I like to see where teams just stick in there, you know, grit their teeth and just hunker down and just get through it. I like that kind of a story. I think, you know, tenacity should be rewarded to an extent. So, yeah, I'd like to see them maybe do a little bit well today.
Mm.
At the very least, get out of that relegation. It would be very nice to see that for them.
Hmm.
Otherwise, I think, like you mentioned, Fear and Young Thunder probably have a really good chance of getting themselves a little bit further ahead, depending on how the rest of the teams do decide to perform. Other than that, maybe Comfy Six has a chance themselves. But I think when so many teams are in a very similar position towards the bottom of the
Yeah.
leaderboard, fighting each other, it becomes very difficult for you know a lot of teams to stand out. Usually, only one or two teams will probably be able to make it.
Yeah, and you don't like it's still very close. I mean, even that third page, if you look over that, you know, you got Natural Killers, The Magicians, Black Clover, Immortals, and maybe Team Unique in a tough position as well, Sincerity Esports, because you know they could potentially be pushed all the way further into the fourth page, depending on how well some of these guys, such as Fear, Young Thunders, EXO Redefined, do, because they are sitting right now on 79, 73, 72, and 63. So it's not that far of a distance, and it's going to be tricky, you know. So everyone is going to be playing a bit slow today, and especially when it's on such a huge map like Erangel, those rotations become a bit of a passive play instead of, you know, trying to engage in a 50-50 long distance battle.
Yeah, I think for the teams that are trying to secure points, they might just be going for the you know the safe play in terms of how can we secure you know as many consistent points as possible over these three matches because that's really what these teams have to be planning. You know, it's like okay, we've got three maps. How do we maximize the amount of points that we can get while minimizing the risk that we have to take? You know, I said I'd like to see the risk it for the biscuit, but that's just who I am. You know, I would go straight for it. If I get kicked out first, then I get kicked out first. If I get you know hit into the relegation, and so be it. But I would just risk it to you know to see how many points I could get as quickly as possible. But you know these teams are making a little bit more of a reserved decision, trying to be a little bit more consistent with their play and a little bit more secured to try and get those points. So we'll see if it works out for them. You know, one of the teams
Mm.
that is currently hovering down towards the bottom of the log is Natural Killers. And the reason that I didn't really bring them up when I was talking about the teams that I'm thinking might just be able to have a chance is because I really haven't seen the kind of consistency out of the Natural Killers that I've been looking for pretty much all season long. You know, we've seen in past seasons and in past games that these guys can really do well, but we just haven't seen them show up in the way that you know I've really been wanting to see them show up. So you know, I don't really know if I can speak into whether we're actually going to see them finally step it up here at what seems to be like the final countdown for a lot of these teams.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, it's gonna be a tricky one, and it's always weird. You know, we can always say maybe it's the new blood in the Umzansi from Inkosi that has set, you know, a tremble among the maps that we have, but at the same time, things get to change. The meta sort of changes in a way, buffs and nerfs here and there. So, yeah, it always comes down to how quick you adapt and what you learn and how motivated you want to be in terms of getting to the top. Maybe natural killers is just losing that nature of theirs and not, doing exactly what they all about.
Yeah, that's that's quite true. Maybe they have lost a little bit of that edge. Who knows? We have heard a couple of times some teams talk about keeping themselves reserved for the round. But generally speaking, when you kind of reserve yourself and you don't give 100%, your intention is still to make it to the next round. And the natural killers have a little bit of work to do if they want to secure that for themselves. So we'll see if they can make it through into the next round. Of course, that blue zone has closed in just a little bit. We're going to see that zone shift happening momentarily, and then we'll get a good feel for where the rest of this game is likely going to take place, depending on this shifts up. And it goes north. I was about to say whether this shifts north or south, but it does go north. And that's where all the teams are going to have to find themselves rotating very soon. Lots of teams are now getting caught down into the south, which means we might just be seeing a few battles breaking out there, which I'm keen to see. And right here on your screen, we've got the Young Thunder rolling past Fear and Lag.
So you could potentially see a good sandwich, but at the same time now Lag making those rotations just as well, and everyone's in their vehicles, trying to get into the next zone and be safe and find a good position for themselves. And you can see MGC is going to be playing a little bit of a um, zone play, if you could say, for the most matter. But I always did say to you, Patchy, that I do love how they make those rotations. They always find themselves rotating late, but it's always that dead side rotation, and nobody actually gets to see them. And they make their way into endgame, and there's 11 teams remaining or whatever, and somehow, somewhere down the line, they just fall short and they get eliminated. But now we are seeing some action with EXO and as well as G3, and G3 seems for the most part to be put back against the wall, and that is a very interesting topic.
Yeah, it certainly is. It's not something that we see all too often, but of course, as I mentioned earlier, G3 not really under the pressure to perform. They've kind of secured their victory for this round at the very least. They're 100% going to make it through, so they don't have to be worrying. They can sleep easy, they can rest easy, knowing that they are good to go. They don't really have to fully focus on what's going on around them. The other teams, however, do have to do so, and at the moment, Kato, right up here with the players from Sidemen, is going to have to find his way out of this sticky situation, trying to toss a few nades across the way to potentially create a bit of space for him to escape, but he's not going to have much time to make that happen. That smoke is eventually going to run out. Matrix actually gets taken down by the natural killers on the back line, so maybe some third-party shots could come out to help him. Those nades flying down, doing a little bit of damage there, and they have actually pushed those players back, so Kato will live to see just a few zones more at the least. He hasn't gotten taken out just yet. We'll have to go and join up with the rest of his team, which is quite spread out, it seems, which is a very interesting choice, but they're still alive for the time being. Looks like Light wants to go in for a little bit of a flank, and he might just catch it, but the natural killers are still on that back line, and there's a little bit of a fight going on here.
Yeah, you can hear that he's managed to actually notice a third party play and decided, what, Light, let's just go talk for a bit and not get involved. And he is gonna survive this one, as now XIX manages to go around, and Light does get a beautiful knock. Just unfortunately not able to get a confirmation. I do not think so.
Yeah, well, at least we're seeing a few tussles breaking out here. The natural killers have been putting a few shots across the way. The Sidemen have gathered themselves into a house here down towards the bottom of the compound, whereas Infinity AF are still up here on top of the hill. So we've got some setups happening. You can see towards the middle of the map, there's a few teams floating around. The Rila Insiders have taken up position on top of that mountain, looking to see if they can flex some of those angles. And with that zone shift, it might just be really, really useful to stay up on that mountain and try and leverage that height advantage. Speaking of Light, trying to leverage the height advantage at the top of this lookout tower, but instantly going to get taken down. Has to crawl back towards the team to try and stay alive. The Sidemen are going to go for that quick rotation, which is a good decision at this point, considering if they had stuck around, they might have just gotten sandwiched between a couple of teams. So now the Infinity AF are alone. They can get themselves res back up and make that rotate happen, as the rest of the teams are doing the same. For KT coming in from this side, we've got the Comfy 6 rolling up past them, which could be a little bit of a problem for them. The Magicians rolling up behind as well, as they do, just taking the longer way around to try and find themselves an open spot. But I'm not too sure if they're going to be able to find that, because right now that zone is looking pretty cramped. All the teams are just sort of slotting in like sardines, and they're going to be running out of space very, very quickly, considering that we still have 15 teams and 57 players live.
Yeah, I said this is going to be a very passive play, and a lot of these guys are not going to be too aggressive when it comes down to fighting or even 50-50. You could see, Sidemen take down a knock, but they go in for the immediate rotating disengagement, which means making that rotation into the zone. But it's gonna be cramped up here, Patchy. I mean, I'm looking at all these players now, and I'm wondering, like, where is everyone gonna be positioned, and how are these players gonna be making those rotations?
Well, it is certainly going to be a difficult decision for these teams, because every single one of them has to try and squeeze past one another to secure that space. And I'm almost certain that we're going to see a few fights break out. You can see the Rila Insiders still occupying the top of this mountain, as I mentioned, could potentially be very, very useful to leverage that height advantage. Of course, 4KT rolling up towards the one side of it might just expose themselves for a little bit of a gunfight here. If the Insiders can spot them out, we will, of course, be able to see momentarily. Bruni actually going to be putting some shots in. That's Esports going up against what looks like the Sidemen, and potentially a couple of other teams a little bit ahead of them. You can see Bruni now pushing forward as that smoke obscures the Sidemen right up ahead. So we can see things are starting to heat up just a little bit as these teams start to get up nice, close, and personal, utilizing that smoke to just back up a little bit. They are trying to defend this zone at the moment, a little bit of gatekeeping, but it's not going all too well for the Sidemen right now. C Esports, of course, having to rotate out of that compound, deciding not to take the rest of that fight. Obviously, not too aware of how low those HP bars are. They can't see what we can see, so they're just going to make the decision to rotate away, which, it's going to save them the trouble of knowing whether they're going to win this fight or not.
Yeah, we are seeing some kill feed action happening as well onto the MGC. The Magicians, Legacy managing to find a knock onto Kato, so which was good, but he has been revived already. So Infant already in a good position to make the rotations now into that zone, which seems to be a very scuffed one. And now Trip, he manages to get Bad Karma out of his vehicle, and Fex, who is the kill leader today, guys, may potentially come through with a pop-off or clutch of note. But now, a lot of these guys are losing a lot of HP due to that zone tick. And Fex and, the entire 4KT, they're looking quite troubled. You can see Fex finally getting in a consumable, so he's managed to pick up some HP on his end over there. And this is really good for Rila Insider.
Yeah, the Rila Insiders defending their position on top of that mountain is going to be very useful for them. Fex actually still putting up a fight here, although the rest of his team has basically decided to recline just a little bit. Obviously, playing with one hand on the couch or whatever it may be. So Fex is left all alone to try and defend himself and the rest of the team's, a clout, basically, is what he's defending here. Some shots coming in from Infinity in towards those players there from the Magicians, and actually there's a couple of teams down there. We see a wipe on the Magicians. They get absolutely slaughtered by Lag, who are just not having any of that action down there towards the south. Now, of course, they're going to get turned on very, very quickly, as there are a couple of teams in that surrounding area. You can see Infinity AF moving down there. The Young Thundercats up north of that position as well. So there are still some potential angles that these teams can be utilized against.
Zeke managing to find himself knocked on his own. So this is going to be interesting to see what is happening over here. And
yeah, we'll just have to wait and see what does progress, what does transpire here, as we can see Lag up in this cathedral here. Young Thunder taking a little bit of damage from ammo. That DP just chugging away. 4KT is going to get eliminated there by G3. It seems like 4KT, they were like, it's fine. We don't need to put any more points on this board. We're all right. We'll just we'll take what we can get. Fex, getting eliminated there. G3 just gonna be happy to pick up that kill. I think it is very much G3 style to continue to fight till the very end just for the bragging points. So I do expect they will try a little bit harder, or just a little bit more than 4KT did, to put some points on the board here in these 3 maps. The real questions that we're looking at now is that now that our heavy hitters are sort of taking the back seat, are other teams going to step up, or are they kind of just going to squabble and fall one by one randomly, or are we going to see some teams actually step it up and try and take a little bit of initiative here? Because like we've been saying from the beginning here, some of these teams really, really do need the points.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, for MGC, who have been on that, second last page of the thing, it's just been hectic. But Lag One just trying to get a peek on the window, and Infant Carter over here manages to pick up that one over there. And what Lag do seem to be out of the lobby. I'm not entirely sure if they've managed to have any of the players alive, but just look at the zone, man. It does look a bit scuffed for some of these guys, and let's see just how they manage to get out of this position. Light may potentially have the advantage over here in terms of height onto Exo Pero, but I don't know if they will be able to find him. In fact, he's going to make that rotation and let Pero live for this one, a couple zones, and that's going to be good for Exo Redefined.
Yeah, a little bit of a tight spot for them. EXO Redefined in need of quite a number of points for themselves at the moment. Of course, they're sitting down towards the bottom of that leaderboard. They're sitting in position number 27, so they do need the points, and going to be quite happy to walk away alive if they can. But there's so many stragglers down towards the bottom of this zone that you can see those shots are just absolutely flying at the moment as everyone scrambles left and right. I mean, they just scattered. They're not even together. Half these teams are kind of split down the middle. Players left, right, and center. Lone wolves all over the place. I mean, this is just kind of messy. Is all I can really describe it as these teams trying to scramble up in towards the zone. Gato putting a couple of shots in towards Outcast from Fear, but getting instantly shot back in the face, down to like 10 HP in his health bar at the moment as he turns his attention towards a couple more players in that smoke, trying to eliminate them out of this game. But man, I mean, look at this. It's just such a mess down here towards the south of the zone.
It is indeed such a mess, and now we're seeing Dizzy, who's been taken down, and this is just crazy. This is what happens when you're out for the passive rotations, the passive plays. Either way, you're going to be you are meant to fight. It is a battle royale. That blue zone is going to be shrinking, and further away, these players are going to get closer to each other. The area of playing field is going to get tighter, and open plan fields are just exactly what is going to be happening. Carter is just trying to get swag out of this one so that he can potentially maybe bring Dizzy back out in the lobby. But it does look like a grenade or some sort happened.
Yeah, it seemed like there is just some real difficult barriers of entry for a lot of these players as they try and make it in. It just, oh man.
It's Swag with the grenade, the Kobe throw, and he takes out the 2 players there. And Infinite AF is just going to be out of this one. But that is going to be really good for Fear. They've managed to pick up those 2 kills. We don't know exactly how much team kills they're sitting on, but those are placement points, as they continue to eliminate the lobby, and the lobby continues to, decrease in terms of players alive and teams that we have over here. Solo Samurai is going to be taken out and confirmed by Juicy. So natural killer Juicy over there. It's good that we still see Sidemen and so forth in the lobby to keep things exciting, because they were the active ones that we get to see in this season.
Yeah, I mean, right now we've just been seeing a really, really stretched out gameplay here where the teams are just sort of scrambling around and trying their best to stay alive and rushing through the blue zone and getting slam dunked by nades. And now we find ourselves with 10 teams remaining here in zone number 6, moving towards zone number 7. The HP bars are looking a little bit low for some of these teams, but for others, well, they're just quite happy to sit inside the zone for the time being. You can see the players there from, I think that might just be the Comfy 6, who are sitting in there at the moment. We'll see if they can make it out alive. Young Thunder putting the shots in towards G3 at the moment. Sidemen moving up to see if they can get inside the zone. Sleepy putting in the good shots there and finding some kills to pick up some more points for them. They're trying to distance themselves from that relegation zone, as they well should. Here is the Comfy 6 taking up residence in this compound, putting some shots into the teams outside of that zone. So they're in a really, really good spot for the time being. But as you can see on that map, it is just absolute chaos down towards the south of the zone. You can see those colors dotting all over the show. Everyone's trying to survive, but it is very difficult to do so right now. Those smokes going down as Fenny turns their attention towards the player there from Lag, who's running down the hillside from smoke to try and stay alive, but they're not going to be able to do that for much longer because they've got to get inside the zone, and the damage is too much. It's being done all over. The third party's even coming in for the thirst here. You can see Osiris right next to Mighty, Ungodly, and Zeke. So everyone, like, look at these stragglers all over the show, just trying to stay alive to get those placement points.
Yeah, indeed. And Swag is trying to move left and right, but unfortunately, movement's not going to do it when you're in an open playing field and you have all these players aiming their sights onto you. So, Natural Killers and the player Almighty just swimming next to each other. What are the scenes over here? And now you get to see Mighty out of this one, and it's a peek out of this, and it's like a crocodile hunt. And Osiris just takes his head out of that one and brings the weapon, and he gets the kill. So Solo Mighty just will be taken out of here. But you can see SG do have the numbers in terms of players on their squad, so they look like they could potentially be walking away with a winner chicken dinner. But with the things we've seen this season here, Patchy, anything is possible.
Yeah, and I mean, anything is extra possible in this map right now because I don't even know what I'm looking at, to be honest. I mean, this is kind of just some weird stuff going on here. We see some players just like playing a weird staring competition while they swim around, and now we've got a zone where only one team is inside mostly. That, of course, being the Comfy 6, who've taken up residence in that compound, as we saw. The rest of the teams, they're just going to be fighting it out amongst each other to see who's going to have the honor of going into the zone next to try and survive. You can see Draken right here turning his attention towards the players there from the Sidemen, and I'm not sure if they're aware that he's even there, so this might just be an issue for them, because they're all stuck behind this tree, and they're not watching, and Draken is just putting the shots in, but instantly Sleepy gonna find him and seek him out and destroy him, which otherwise he would have done way too much damage, so he's done a good job in protecting his team there. Sidemen will live to fight another day, and Zeke turning his attention towards the Natural Killers, who've been dodging and weaving, but they're not dodging and weaving the bullets.
No,
and,
they're not.
They just get taken out.
Oh, what a beautiful scene out from Zeke, as a solo managing to 1v2 in that position. He takes out the Natural Killers, and that's just going to be a GG's. And you see Risks getting down by the play zone, and now we are down to the squads of 3. So we see Sidemen finally get taken out. In fact, it's 2, and it's going to be SG versus Zeke, and I could just wrap my bullets right now and say GG's, but no, Zeke managed to pull in a Kobe grenade, and now he's crawling through his way to potentially do a 1v3. But the scenes and possibility for that to actually happen is quite rare.
I mean, it's not impossible that this might happen, but I would be very surprised if the Comfy 6 lost this battle against one single player. Surely not. The shots come through, and indeed, Zeke will go down. So the Comfy 6 will secure that chicken dinner, which is a much-needed chicken dinner, plus 3 kills. So that's going to be a very hefty amount of points that they've just shifted into their pocket right there, which is going to be very, very useful. If they can keep that up, they will be able to get out of this relegation zone because, I mean, we were talking about, can these teams put the points on the board? I mean, a chicken dinner is a great way to start that out.
It is indeed, and if you look at MGC coming all the way out in Lost, that is going to be changing in maybe a lot towards that overall leaderboard here, Patchy, and the story is just amazing to see a really clutch up play coming out from Comfy 6 as they did need this moment for themselves.
Yeah, they certainly did. So it was a little bit of a messy game, to be honest. In my opinion, it wasn't really too much of a what we would expect out of a like super high quality game, like a really intense one. It was a little bit slow to start and a little bit messy in the middle. Some of the teams not really not really doing the most the most clear strategies, you know, so like swimming next to 5 other enemies in a in a river and then sort of like dodging around in the
Yes,
river. It's
yes.
a little bit strange, not the greatest tactic in the world, but yeah, you know, you do what you got to do. You keep yourself alive, you get the points, and of course, well done to the Comfy Six there for getting those points, getting that chicken dinner. It's going to be super, super useful. And really, that's, I think, where our focus needs to be at the moment. I mean, it's all good to see the other teams putting on the points, but really our
Mm.
focus needs to be down on those teams in the relegation. So we're looking at the Magicians, Natural Killers, Fear, Young Thunder, Exo Redefined, Comfy Six, Black Crystal, and Ultra Six. Those are the teams that are currently playing now that are in relegation zone. And one of those teams just got a chicken dinner. So that's a really, really good start. Of course,
Yeah.
we still have 2 more matches to play for them to be able to actually get some more points on the board. So we will keep our fingers crossed for those teams down in relegation. But before we do that, we're going to take a look and see exactly how many points were actually gained by these teams, because we know that the Comfy Six got the chicken dinner, and we know that's 15 points, and we know that 3 points they also put on the board for the kills, but we don't know the rest of the teams. So we're looking at those teams down in relegation, and we're waiting for those stats, or for the score page, should I say, to come back. But in your opinion, do you think that the Comfy Six will be able to replicate what they just pulled now in some of the other matches? Or do you think some of those other teams from our relegation zone are going to be stepping it up in matches 2 and 3?
Honestly, I see the team working really well towards game 2 and 3, because clearly they came in with the right strategy for today to sort of pick things up, and it worked out for them. Yes, it's not an active kill winner chicken dinner that we used to seeing, 13, 14 plus kills, but it is 3. It is a winner chicken dinner. It is going to make a difference to where they're sitting at on the leaderboard. But this sort of then set and entails for the underdogs, maybe they'd be like, Comfy Six did it. Why can't we, guys? What's happening? The comms are there now. They're like, come on, guys, we've got to pick up the pace, and maybe we will be able to see that. But here's the standings, Pachi. Take us away.
Yeah, let's have a look and see what is going on here. So it's 18 points for Comfy Six. That's going to be a nice boost to their position down there at the bottom, of course. So we will get to see those overall standings at the end, and I do believe that we do show those standings during the break. So keep your eyes peeled for how these teams are moving around down there on that last page. But of course, moving down, we've got Rila Insiders, Esports, the Sidemen. Here's the Natural Killers picking up 10 points for themselves. So there's another team that is sitting down towards the bottom of that leaderboard that has moved themselves up just a little bit. Anything that's in the double digits, Ira, is going to be super, super useful for any of those teams that are down in our relegation zone at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. These are a couple points, especially for Black Crystal. Not too much from them, seeing that, they really needed a massive double digit point gain. But look at the Magicians grabbing 2 points over here alone. So it's quite tough. Fear were not far behind from the Magicians. They were about 4 points behind, if I'm not mistaken, and that is definitely going to be really well. No, in fact, I lied. They were not. Yeah, there were a couple 4 points behind Magicians, or just a couple 10. But yeah, this is really good, and it sets the pressure on for the teams to continue doing getting on points on the leaderboard. So, Patchy, let's see exactly what happens over there.
Yeah. Infinity AF going to be sporting our MVP for match number 1. That, of course, is going to be a Kato with 4 kills and 600 on the dot damage. So, a time of 19 minutes and 44 seconds for that match. And, of course, a much needed set of kills for the team just to be able to get a couple more points in the pocket. Of course, Infinity is very much safe at the moment, so they do not have to worry all that much. But I think for the rest of the teams, it is very, very critical that they try and compound as many points as possible. So match number 1 is out the way. We still have 2 more to come, of course. Sanhok is coming up next, so do not go anywhere. We're going to cut to a short break, and then we will be right back after this with match number 2. And we are right back into the thick of things after map number 1, which was a little bit messy, a little bit chaotic, a little bit strange in places. But now we have a map number 2 coming up. So thank you so much, guys, for sticking with us. It is coming up very, very soon. It's me, your boy, Patchy, and of course, Iro, to take you through the craziness of today's games, which certainly have proven to be a little bit interesting. We saw the Comfy Six taking a chicken dinner, putting some good points on the board there in map number 1. And of course, much needed points because they are one of the many teams that needs to get themselves out of that relegation zone.
Yeah, no, definitely. This was a really well game for Comfy Six, and we look at them right now and we say GG's, and they picked up a decent amount of points to just squeeze themselves into the third page. But now it comes down to the consistency that they need to continue in order to stay on that third page for Sanhok and as well as Miramar. But Patchy, here I think Fear it just needs to no Comfy Six just need to keep on staying consistent, but at the same time we are not seeing the same consistency from like Fear, EXO, Redefined, etc. So they're not too worried today. They're not too worried today. They get pushed up into the third page, and Comfy Six can celebrate the evening that they're not on the relegation that we have over here.
Yeah, so they're going to hopefully put on a few more points to secure that for themselves because, I mean, you want to put as much distance between you and that relegation as possible. So maybe we will see that coming out of them in map number 2. Of course, map number 2 is going to be Sanhok, so it's going to be a little bit more close quarters, a little bit faster, at least towards the middle of that game. I'm going to be interested to see how the teams actually handle this one because usually what we see is like our Erangel map be a little bit less chaotic just because of the fact that the teams know the map, they know how to play on it. It's a little bit more familiar for them. It's sort of it's why we call it the bread and butter. They know what's going on that map. So it's very strange to see the chaos come in map number 1 because now you have to sit and question like what's going to happen in map number 2 because this is usually the map where the chaos happens. This is usually the map where we see the teams tripping up and doing weird things. So what are we expecting here for map number 2?
Usually the case is that, for Erangel, you don't have that much teams make it into that part of that zone. So, you had everyone sort of sandwiched next to each other. And that was the issue. That's why there was so much mess. The river incident that we did see from Natural Killers and Osiris as well. So it's just going to be an interesting thing to see how Sanhok is built. I mean, if they're opting in for the same passive plays, actually, I mean, it's physically impossible because of how small Sanhok is and how close combat these fights can happen. But it would be interesting to see that same amount of teams go into sort of a second blue zone or a third blue zone, and then where is everyone going to be positioned? It's gonna be a bloodbath. I can tell you that for sure. If these teams are opting in for passive, scared rotations, they are literally making it more tough for themselves. I would rather myself 50-50 an off spawn situation, a mid game rotation, and then you work things off like that. But these guys are playing it passive, playing it slow, and they're just making it more harder for themselves when it comes down to the later stage of the maps because where do they hide? Where do they position? There's nowhere to place themselves onto the map. And when it comes down to Sanhok, there's third parties, fourth parties, and it's just crazy roller coaster of events that will break down if they're going to be opting in for that late movement zones.
Yeah, I have to absolutely 100% agree with you on that one. I want to see these teams get a little bit more active on the early stages of this map, especially the teams that need to make things happen. This is your time to shine. We've already seen that teams like 4KT, for instance, aren't really giving it their 100%. So maybe this is the time to take advantage of that. Try and go for some early movements and see what you can make happen. Because like you just said there, Iro, it is definitely super, super important that these teams do not find themselves caught out in the late game with all of these teams surrounding them. And speaking of, here comes one moving straight on up. So we've got some early action there. Roshi, not even a weapon in hand, is going to find himself getting slam right into the ground there by one. So Lag doing a little bit of a quick drop down here towards the natural killers. An unfortunate end of an unfortunate demise to an unarmed population here. This is absolute. I mean, this is breaking the Geneva Convention or something here. You can't just assault unarmed players like that. But you know, if you got to get those points, you got to get those points.
And for natural killers, they're in the same sort of sticky situation that we find MGC. So, two of their players out. Ooh, this could be tough. This could be tough.
Yeah, it certainly could be. Lag just really making their life a little bit difficult there. The Natural Killers, of course, they got 10 points in the previous game, but they're definitely going to need a little bit more than that to secure themselves away from the chaos. For now, of course, you can see the shots coming through for G3 as we see Esports putting up a good attack here, a nice assault on towards this position. And G3, they're low on HPs. They don't have the meds to try and contest this. So I'm liking this early action that we're seeing coming out of these teams. Esports have conjured up some courage here, and they're just going for it. They're going to absolutely tear through G3 one by one. You can see Ellie doing absolute huge work for the team, and Esports just running over G3 player by player by player until G3 are only left with one gunner with like 25 HP to his name. He's just sprinting as far away to safety as possible, which is definitely not a G3 that we're used to seeing, but certainly well played on the side of Esports there.
This reminds me of what Viper calls this place is, you know, the monkey hoops, because of how you can jump from one place to the other and stay on the buildings. And you just saw Eli take advantage of that. And, you know, he got the peaks that, you know, G3 were just not expecting. And for G3 to be pinched like that with C just means a lot, you know, like how confident C is in this one. You know, they've already promoted, they're in a good position, but with nothing to worry about, we get to see the full version of them, and it's just so exciting.
Yeah, certainly. His gunner is running for his life. He still has very low HP, and you can see he is not very keen on the upcoming fight that certainly is looking for him, because Esports is on the hunt. They're trying to see if they can pick him out and take him down, get themselves another kill, and a quick boost to that placement points for everyone on the map. At the moment, you can see everyone else is just keeping themselves nice and chill. So it's good to see that we have some regions which are quite active there. You can see the Natural Killers up there with G3. Lag moving off to the one side as Juicy and Osiris are retreating into this compound here after their unfortunate demise, or at least half of the team's unfortunate demise in the early part of that game. You can see Lag rotating off in the distance and just getting themselves into position, which is going to be the case for most of these teams as they reposition. The blue zone will still come in about a minute and a bit, so there's a little bit of time for these teams. But you know, you do want to make sure you have at least good positioning for this map, especially considering that you know, things can get out of hand very, very quickly here on a map like Sanhok.
Definitely. But yeah, now we come down to, you know, a couple players that have been eliminated. No official teams just yet. You got some solos and duos running around the map trying to stay alive for the most part. But if you see now Infinite AF as well as Young Thunders, they need to make that rotation from that island into where boot camp is situated, and that would be good for them. You know, they're playing a bit of a slow passive rotation for themselves, but Young Thunders definitely need to try pick up the pace because of the points that they've acquired in the game. Number one, you got Solo Samurai and maybe Rila Insiders that could potentially come back, but it does not look like it is going to be happening, as Samurai and them will be going to the left and not continue on a straight line. On top of everything, you also do got MGC just very on the outskirts, and you know Sanhok is a good prime example on where we usually see that zone play a lot more. You know, the healing in the zone to grab as much placement points and so forth. I wonder for MGC if they're going to be now using that strategy, just like we did see in week number 2.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see, especially considering this is a very a sort of age-old BBC strat that we usually see coming out of them. If you go and watch some of those old videos from the previous season, you'll see BBC doing some very similar things and taking those big, long rotates out into the ocean, which I'm a huge fan of. I like it when teams take advantage of some of the unusual spaces on the map. And I mean, Sanhok has quite a bit of ocean water as part of the playable area that you can sort of move around in. And so why, if not, why not? If you see a gap, just get into a boat, go fishing for a little bit, head yourself around and take a trip into the outskirts of that zone, which a lot of the time it happens where our zone actually falls on a little bit of that ocean water. And so you could potentially just take a boat out into the open sea and chill inside the zone for as long as it allows you to. So there's a little bit of a potential there for survival if the team does want to try and put off engagements as far as is possible. So that is definitely a potential for the MGC team here to maybe make it work and try and get those placement points under their belt. In any case, we can see 4KT right here moving up in towards Lag. Gunner still alive, managing to keep himself out of trouble for the time being. Hopefully, we'll see maybe a little bit of fight coming out of him, as we know that he can do some pretty crazy things despite only being one player with no team to support him. We've seen Gunner do some pretty big things for the team, so you definitely can't count him down and out just yet, despite the fact that he's only a solo player here on this map.
Yeah, definitely cannot count him out. He's hugging on to those placement points these so teams would love to have right now. But even for Sanhok, we are seeing a slow gameplay. And just when I say that, it does look like 4KT have just managed to find themselves onto Lag, and Lag is taking quite the damage, losing already one of their own players to a knock, and 1-9 almost finding himself fully knocked as well. But now Saf1 has been, revived, and he's set to tremble the map over here. Let's see exactly what will be happening. But for Bad Karma, it does not look like he wants to be giving up on this one. And he could potentially be going in for the flank over here. They do know exactly where Zero is located, and a good grenade connection, but not a knock of note over there for Bad Karma. And he's now moved over to the rock over here. The big Smoke, however, has managed to keep Zero still hidden in a way, and a bit of a distraction set over here. But for the most part, I feel like Lag do have the advantage, seeing that they are on a sort of a incline of the cliff.
Well, maybe they could make it work. We'll see. He seems to be taking a little bit of damage there. Zero going down pretty low for his HP, and 4KT here maybe trying to pick up some points there, maybe steal them away from some of those teams that are struggling at the moment. Lag just going to be healing up and trying to see what the situation is going to present. You can see Sofwan getting nice and aggressive here, looking for something, looking for 4KT to potentially peek out and expose themselves. You can see Gunner off in the distance there, just keeping himself alive, which is pretty considerable. He's got a potential for some good third parties into these players, depending on whether they expose themselves to his angles or not. We know that he can put those long range shots in G3, sort of a specialty on putting those third party long range engagements in. So we'll see if he causes any havoc here in this fight between Lag and 4KT. Bad Karma, of course, up here right towards the edge, but it looks like Lag have decided they want to rotate away, which is probably smart considering they didn't feel like they had much of a grip on that fight, so rather deciding to just pull away from that one. And now 4KT get to turn their attention towards Gunner, who is squashed in between these rocks here on top of the hill.
Yeah, and could it be a good thing for Light to now make the disengagement 100% for Gunner? He doesn't need to worry too much about what happens today. Like I say, they can chin up the mistakes because they are on top of the leaderboard as it stands. He's gonna get in a good beam from a distance as well onto Amy over there. So that's just gonna be a huge one, and he also gets a knock onto Bad Karma. So he doesn't mind. He can go in for the tags. He can go in for the dramatic clutch plays. But I don't know. I don't know what would happen in this position. But when we did see those rotations on the map, we did see Young Thunders potentially making their way all the way through down to Comfy 6. So you can see that right over there. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it certainly is. We'll have to wait and see what does happen down there. You can see Comfy 6 moving around as the young Thundercats are just up and towards the north of that position there on Sami. We'll see if they come into contact. For the moment, though, we do have a few teams very close in proximity. We've got Fear and Solo over there. Solo has been doing pretty well this season so far. And on the flip side, Fear do need a little bit more points for themselves. So hopefully they can come away with a few of those from this potential fight. You can see Fear at the moment, I believe, is sitting down in position number 27 on the leaderboard. So they do need to find some points in their pocket to try and move out of relegation. It's a fight, a desperate scramble to try and get out of that position, but it's not an impossible one, and definitely any one good game could certainly change their fate, but that has to start now. That momentum has to start building right about now. We still have 14 teams and 53 players here on this board as the zone starts to shift on up, and I think from here on out we're going to start to see things heat up just a little bit, because I think from now on that zone is going to start getting a whole lot smaller very quickly.
Definitely, it is going to get a whole lot smaller. And, talking about Fear and Young Thunders, they actually were tied coming into this game over here with 77 points. So, for these two teams, they want to try their level best to squeeze out of that page number 4. But just look at that north east west, is it west northwest or northeast of the map right now? You got so many teams close to each other: Natural Killers, MGC, Sidemen, EXO, Redefined, 4KTC. They could literally come close to each other, and not only that, but Rila Insiders, Fear, as well as Solo. And it's coming to a scram of a note, and these players are going to be in a sticky situation anytime now.
Yeah, they certainly will be. They're going to be fighting for the space as the zone shifts on up. You can see the blue has almost closed in. So we're about to find out where the new zone is going to drop. But like you said, these teams are very close, and it's going to get uncomfortable very soon. We're just going to have to wait and see where they're going to have to move. This, depending on where this zone decides to shift. It's about to close on up. We can see Comfy 6 making their way across that line. Some of them still straggling behind in the blue, but for the time being, they're just going to be making their way out of that. It's going to move up into zone number 3. So the damage is starting to ramp up for the blue zone. The teams don't want to stay out of that for as long as possible, but here comes an engagement. The Magician's moving up here towards Lag. Some damage has been done, and Legacy now leading the charge up in towards the compound. Some shots coming in from the back. That's a lot of damage done in towards Lag, and that's Elam straight over there for one of their players. That's going to put them on the back foot. The HP bar's not looking too good either. The nades now getting prepped. The Magicians looking to pick some points straight up for themselves and just boost them up that leaderboard as they would. Legacy putting in a nice nade on towards 0, and that should be it. I think Lag is basically done for at this point. The Magicians have done a pretty good assault here so far on this position. Safwan trying his best to stay alive, but the flank from Legacy is going to be enough to take them out, and I think that's going to leave one player alive for them, and they're just going to run away as quickly as possible.
Yeah, they're gonna try, also set up a couple defense or be aware, because they need to in this position, seeing that they could potentially be third party, and they understand what map they're playing. They understand the risks and so forth involved over here, and you can see 4KT sort of try make a position into play. He is hearing the shots. He isn't sure exactly where the shots are happening, but he knows it's in that direction, and they could potentially now make their way over here into a fight zone.
Yeah, certainly could be. We could see the Magicians now re-engaging in towards the Sidemen. That Sad Boy getting taken down. There's some shots coming into Sway as well. Matrix hitting the deck. So the Magicians are just on something else today. They've decided to pick up the pace here in game number 2. And they're now putting their shots across into everyone that they can see. Anyone who falls, unfortunately, in their crosshairs going to find themselves getting hit with quite a few bullets there. So Sidemen just popping those smokes are trying to keep themselves alive. Their Fantasy having retreated down the side of the cliff to keep him and his team's dreams alive. You can see 4KT up in the distance as well, just getting themselves positioned up for these potential fights. And we still have so many teams left on the board. So you already know this is going to be a chaotic mid to late game here for these teams, just because of the fact that we have 49 players still alive here, and they're going to start fighting specifically to stay alive here in these spaces. Because, I mean, Sanhok is already a small map, but with the zone coming in hot, it is going to be even smaller for these teams to try and get themselves situated.
Yeah, no, and for the most time being, having said that, I can tell you, if you blink anytime between now, you're gonna miss out on 10 elimination, 10 team wipeouts. I could say over here, because that's exactly what's gonna be happening when they find out the new zone, and now all these guys who are in these safe havens, who are in their homes, who are settled in, who have positioned themselves over here, is now going to start making those rotations anytime now, and that's just gonna rumble things up, and we're gonna see WWE.
Yeah, well, hopefully we don't see players beating each other with chairs, but certainly we will be seeing them duke it out in closer quarters, and we'll see who is going to be the winner of these blue zone cage matches, as it were. You can
Yeah.
see it's going to be quite a rumble indeed. The natural killers here still alive. They've got both of their players up, and they're vying for a couple of placement points and a couple of kills to pop in their pocket here and see if they can get themselves out of that relegation. They did manage to move up a couple of places from that previous game where they
Yeah.
dropped 10 points, so that's very good for them. But of course, you cannot have too much distance between yourself and relegation, so they're going to want to put as many points as they can here on the board, even in this game right here. Infinity AF on the rotate at the moment in the cars, making sure they're getting up, and that zone has shifted down towards the southwest,
Ooh.
so things are going to heat up, and it looks to me like cover is going to be pretty sparse.
It is indeed, and you can see Comfy playing the zone while Broly still in the zone. He is making the rotation very late, but I did like where Solo were situated. They were at the very bottom of the map over there, and just in front of them, who could potentially gatekeep, was Fear. But that is a really good position you want to find yourself in. And now we are looking at Young Thunder getting involved onto Solo, and Solo just losing a couple of players of their own, and it's just going to be a GG's. But it's 4KT involved in a fight over here, and Fex, who's quite low on HP, is going to need to pull up, and he has so now done that exactly. But Infinite AF, oh, getting taken down. It's Kato with a huge knockoff of note coming in from Aimer with a grenade. But this is exactly what we were talking about, how things are just going to start lining up for us. Dizzy trying to get in a couple of shots, and here for Infinite AF, they're losing their members. Kato gets taken down, and there's another knock because of the third, fourth, fifth parties that we are witnessing.
Yeah, and it's only going to get worse and worse for these teams. It's going to be more difficult to stay alive as the space is starting to run out. The rocks being used for cover here. As many buildings as you can find is going to be used. The shots coming in from British in towards the natural killers, meaning that Osiris is going to get taken down. Light trying to find some hits over in towards Titan, and Draken there across the way as that blue zone comes right on up behind them, looking to do a little bit of gatekeeping here. 4KT right next to them in this compound, so there could potentially be some serious problems that are about to arise from this area. You can see the Magicians up ahead of them as well. So the gatekeeping's happening on the one side, but also they've got to be aware of one another's positioning. Infinity actually just going to move away from that space because they realize that they're right next to 4KT and the Magicians, which are two teams that you probably don't want to get squashed between when it comes down to it. So here comes that blue zone closing on up, putting the pressure on these teams to get closer and closer. Now come the shots there from Draken in towards Fantasy. Pero going to get taken down there as the shots coming in from then. The Magicians here still taking up position right up ahead of them. So this is going to be a difficult time for all of these teams right now who are trying to find themselves a safe space and zone.
Yeah, definitely. There's no space in zone because it's very scary on how these guys are going to be rotating now. Black Clover looking to be in an interesting position for the most part. They are widespread to set up, that defensive formation, but behind them is natural killers who could potentially pick up some eliminations. In front of them is MGC and Infinite Lights is just sort of gonna make a rotation in between all of the masses, and there goes the shrinkage of play, and now everyone's gonna start running. Light is in zone as well as Emo over there, and so now Light is running in behind Draken, and you can hear some shots being taken down, and there's a Juicy with a pickup on Exo, but Light is doing a bit of damage over here as well as Ammo, as he's now in the zone taking up and sneak attack on the players, and this is exactly what you need. But how long will he be able to survive? He was in the zone for quite some time, so he used up a lot of his consumables. And if you look at MGC themselves have been taken out. I'm not sure if it was a full team wipe, but that is also an early elimination to them because they opted in for that gatekeep and not that rotation that we wanted to see.
Oh, and now we've got so many teams stuck in that blue zone that it is going to be a tough time there for KT. Going to find themselves in there. The Natural Killers trying to get that rotate going, and the Magicians found themselves eliminated by the blue. And the Natural Killers now trying to take up a spot. Juicy, brash, brazen moves to get into zone, but it works. He is secured in that location for the time being. At least 4 KT on re-entry into the zone are going to get wiped out. Juicy going to get taken out next as he's exposed from all these teams that are in the surrounding area. You can see Amo in the distance trying to do the marathon through the blue zone, which is definitely not recommended at this time as we are 6 zones deep. That's way too much damage to try and out heal now. You can see Squeak and True have made it up in here for the Comfy Six, so they are ready to put some more points on the board. They've already made it into top 6. Right up ahead of them is C Esports. We've got Fear off to the one side. Young Thunder still in this battle, so there's a couple of teams that are still fighting it out for these points, but who is going to walk away with them after match number 2? That's the question that we're looking to answer here. 5 teams now, 17 players left remaining in this zone, and it's only going to get tougher. C Esports moving in, Young Thunder moving in from the bottom, Fear from the side, trying to put the shots in. There's Ellie putting the hits into Squeak. Oh, come on, Comfy Six. You can hold on for a little bit longer. True, the last player left for them, but Superior now coming up the back line is going to make this even more difficult. C Esports under assault, but there goes Ellie, instantly taken down there. True going to find themselves caught out in the blue zone as Superior goes up for the assault. Fear also going up against Rila Insiders as the battles are breaking out left, right, and center for these teams.
And it is indeed a left, right, and center that we are witnessing. Everything is just ablaze, as you guys can see. True seems to be knocked, but if I'm not mistaken, we still have Broly, who's far in the zone, probably doing some heals of note. And now, you got Young Thunders, who is just hugging that blue zone because it's now just left with a couple trees in their way and hopefully a couple smoke grenades that we get to see put down. It is also Swag for Fear, who's also left alone for his team. He also has Chris, who's healing up over there. And this has come down to the final moment. Rilla Insiders, who are second on the overall leaderboard, are getting a lot of points in today, so we could potentially see a first place sweep up coming in from Relay Insiders as well over here, Patchy. But C still alive as well, and this is really good though for the players from Fear.
Yeah, it certainly could be at the moment. We can see the blue zone doing what it does best, taking Broly out there. You can see Young Thunder now trying to reposition here, but there's not much cover to work with. There's only trees and hope and dreams for these teams. Brony and Wizard down on the one side of this incline, just slowly pushing up. Young Thunder trying to find themselves in that zone. They're still trying to stay alive, but Ungodly, of course, needing to get revived. So they're just crawling as far as possible to try and stay just on the edge of that blue zone and keep themselves out of the line of sight. But Ungodly's going to get spotted out. Superior is absolutely next. He's just going to get instantly eliminated. Swag's there moving up with that LMG, but he's going to get spotted out as well. It's just a game of chess, one piece taking out the next. And now we're down to 2 teams, C Esports versus Rilla Insiders. Rilla Insiders, of course, having the advantage in terms of manpower, but can they leverage that for the win is what we're about to find out.
Well, Zeke is a pillar of note when it comes to the Rila insiders. He's been doing a massive things, but also when it comes down to C, you got Wizard Zen, who's also just a massive player when it comes to fighting and taking on those gunfights. And now it's just, the shrinkage of zone and the climate of the hill. For the most part, Rila insiders don't need to move that much, and they got the height advantage. Brunnen getting in a good cover behind this little rock of safe haven that he has found himself to be in. He's just going to be positioned over there. And I would love to see a couple grenades just being thrown over here, and we see a war zone being exploded about. And with that being said, let's see exactly what happens. It does come into play with Brunini as he manages to find himself a knock onto Trip. And now things are leveled for Rilla Insiders versus C, trying to get that confirmation, so no revive. But I don't think even that is a thought going in for Rilla Insiders.
Yeah, I think it's just going to come down to scouting out for Trip. He's going to sacrifice his life to go and see the positioning of Brunini. He's going to call that positioning out. He's going to get eliminated, though, but they do have that information now. Zeke and Jay Roller are going to have to try and play off of it. Is it going to be enough, though? Up he comes. Jay Roller takes the initiative to try and stand and get the shots in, but he takes a lot of damage in response. And now Zeke trying to move and reposition off to the side. Brunini not taking any damage. Their Wizard also still alive. So they're going to just wait. They're going to bide their time as the zone gets even smaller. I mean, look how tiny the zone is now. These guys know exactly where they are. It's just a matter of who can land that first shot, who can land the damage. J Roller, of course, is going to be dangerously on the edge of that zone at the moment. Oh, there come the shots. Wizard goes down. That's Zeke. That's the go signal. J Roller just stands up and tears through that HP, and they will secure that chicken dinner for themselves. Rilla Insiders taking a very hefty amount of kills into their pockets, but I mean, they didn't really need these kills. This is just boasting points for them at this point.
Definitely, and at this stage, the way G3 have been performing today in game number 1 and 2, you could definitely put it on note that Rilla Insiders has now taken that first place position, because they were only 10 points behind. I think it was enough. You do got, however, Fear, who was in that fourth page, now managing to grab themselves third with 5 kills, which I feel is going to be quite decent, seeing that we did have, the magicians and natural killers sort of eliminated quite early on. So a number of things are going to be changing on those 2 pages this evening. We still got Miramar to sort of set into and go into that game over there. But talk about how the MGC sort of put themselves in that pinch there, Patchy. They could have opted in for rotation. Nobody was in their pathway for that, clean rotation. Instead, let's keep these players, and they were absolutely beamed, and then they needed to heal. And then the blue zone came in, and then it was just a wrap for MGC. So these are the decisions I'm always questioning out from MGC. Just rotate, and you get those placement points, as well as some eliminations as you get further in, can third party. But it's a GG's for MGC.
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely a difficult situation for a lot of those teams that got caught out on. I think it was like the one of the last few zone rotations that they got. They, like you said, yeah, they were a little bit too focused on the capturing of a little bit of those rotates, a little bit of the gatekeeping, and yeah, that's what happens when you get distracted. We always talk about Sanhok as a really close and quick map that trips players up, and usually you don't actually see that coming into play a lot of the time because of how good these teams are at actually playing around and adapting to that circumstance. But it does happen, and you can see the proof is in the pudding right here. If you get distracted, if you let yourself just wander off too much, then this game really does come back and bite you in the backside, and it does sneak up on you just a little bit. So Sanhok, you cannot disrespect it like that. You cannot be not paying too much attention to it. So there it is. Of course, here are your standings for that game number 5 here for Group B versus D. Rilla Insiders, of course, taking that first spot with the chicken dinner plus 9 kills for themselves. C Esports coming up there in second place. And as you mentioned, Fear putting in a good number of kills for themselves as well on top of that placement. So that's a really good performance from them. That's going to give them a nice boost up that leaderboard. And the same can be said for the Magicians and the Comfy Sixth, who've both picked themselves up 8 and 7 points, which is actually a pretty decent number of points for themselves. The real question is, with everyone, gathering together, a few points here and a few points there, who's actually going to be the team that does end up making it out of that relegation? Because right now we've got like 4, 5, 6 teams that are fighting to get out, but every single one of those teams is scraping a couple of points together here and there. I mean, even in this game, Natural Killers didn't manage to get up into the top page, but they still, managed to scrape 3 points together. Same can be said for EXO Redefined, and that in itself is going to mean that these guys are still fighting neck and neck for who is going to make it out of relegation.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you look at Young Thunders, they managed to pull in a good amount of points this game. They were just 4 points behind MGC when the day did start today. And with, MGC's performance throughout the two games that we already have, I feel like, Young Thunder have pushed through and kicked down the Magicians. I feel like Fear has also just managed to pick up just a little bit more points than the Magicians. But, these are things that we keep on talking about, and Matt isn't for us, me and you, Patchy. We both know that. But look at Trip. He's managed to find himself as the MVP with 4 kills, 315 damage, and a survival time of 25 minutes and 50 seconds. Something that he didn't need tonight, but a good boost for him and his team.
Yeah, the Rila insiders are after the boasting points. They are after the bragging rights. They're like, hey, we see you at the top of that leaderboard. We want that position from you, so we're just going to take it real quick, and we're going to do that nice and quick. I mean, this is the perfect opportunity to do it. If you ever want to say, yeah, we were number 1 at the end of the first round, we beat G3 or whatever the case is, this is the way to do it. If you're up there, Rila insiders just picking up that bragging rights for themselves. But in any case, it is map number 2 drawn to a close, and I do implore you to keep an eye out for that overall standings to see where those teams down in relegation are actually standing. We have one more map to get those points on the board to change the fate of the teams in relegation. So before we get into that, let's stay hyped, stay in there. We will see you just after this short break. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone else. We've just come off the back of match number 2, which was Sanhok, and a crazy map number 1 before that on Erangel. Some crazy things happening today. We've seen some chicken dinners going left and right. We've seen some points being scraped together left and right from all of these teams that are absolutely desperately trying to
Mm,
get out of relegation. So let's take a
mm.
look and see what the leaderboard for that previous game was like, and which of the teams actually picked up the points that are most important. Like, for instance, here, Fear getting 15.
Yeah, no, that was a really good game from them. Fear and YouTube, who are Young Thunders, who are tied in points, is crazy. I mean, these are the two teams that really needed to pick their socks up, as well as Comfy Six. But GG's to Comfy Six. They did manage to win a chicken dinner in game number 1, but game number 2, Sanhok, they were just pinched on the rotation, and like you mentioned, they Broly as well as Amma, they went into the zone way too early to try start healing it off and so forth. Those consumables are just not going to be valid for that long.
Yeah, you got to be really careful when you're gonna play those long games. I think there's definitely a position for it, and as we moved on towards the later stages of that map number 2, it really actually did seem like there was a place for it. If one of those teams, or if one of those players in the sort of last end zones had spotted out and actually realized that there was a chance for it, and they had the meds to do it, they could have just run out and done it towards the end there. But yeah, doing it a little bit too early, definitely not what you want to pull, not what you
Yep.
want to do. And yeah, well, we've seen how that results. It was a little bit of chaos towards those final few zones that didn't end too well for a couple of teams. But what has ended well for some good teams are those teams that are trying to crawl out of relegation. So let's take a quick look at the overall leaderboard to see those teams that are currently struggling in that relegation zone, because they are the teams that we really are looking at for in terms of actually getting themselves out. So let's have a look. There is Young Thunder, the Magicians, Fear, and the Natural Killers, who've all pulled themselves in to positions 21, 22, 23, and 24 outside of that relegation zone. But what that means is, first of all, are these guys going to be able to keep it? Because look at that, 96, 92, 92, and 92 points each. So they are literally neck and neck, exactly even for almost point after point after point here, which is,
Mm.
that's kind of scary actually, because that means that any one of these teams might just slip back down into the relegation zone. If we go and have a look and see those teams that are currently in that relegation page, you can see the Immortals sitting on 89 points, which is not too far behind. And it's not too much of a barrier for a team like Comfy 6, for instance, to overcome and actually get up into. 86 points for Comfy 6, 86 for Black Clover, and 69 for Exo Redefined. So right now, it looks like Comfy 6 and potentially the team there from no, Black Clover are not actually playing today. So it's Comfy 6 that it's got one of the best chances to move up into the outside of the relegation zone, but they
Mm.
have to defeat the teams that are above them on that previous page. So who do you think is actually going to be able to save themselves and keep themselves out of relegation?
You know what? I'm gonna be one of the guys who call a dramatic one, right? I'm gonna say Comfy Six Black Clover. They move over to the third page, and the teams like where they now just hold on. Sincerity Esports and Team Unique are just on 99 are gonna go to the fourth page. I don't know. I
Oh.
just feel like that could be a potential possibility, because if you did look at the zone, the third page, you had Sincerity Esports and Team Unique, who are tied on 99. Below them is the Magicians, Yantanga, Fear, Natural Killers, and then of course on the fourth page is then Immortals, and then you also have Comfy Six and Black Clover. So imagine the scenes if they all do so well, and then the Team Unique and Sincerity Esports somehow decline into fourth
Oh.
page. I don't know. I think it's possible, but we're gonna have to wait and see how these players play it out. They are gonna be nervous. The screens are gonna be shaking, and the aim is gonna be waffling. I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see exactly what will be going down, Patchy. For you, I think you favoring Comfy Six. Am I wrong or not?
Well, I think they have a pretty good, position to make it happen. But I think I'm sort of convinced by by what you're saying there in terms of that we might just be able to see our teams today doing so well that they push the teams above them down into that relegation. I think I would be very interested to see that. I'm on board on that train. I want to see that happen because that's going to be quite an upset, yeah, for the teams that have now not only crawled their way out of relegation but have started throwing other people down and stepping on them to get there. That's going to be quite something to see. Of course, we have one more match to make this happen, and that is going to
Yeah,
be Miramar. Those long ranges are coming through, and we
definitely.
have seen some teams be very, very capable on this particular map.
Yeah, so just to correct everyone that is watching, when I keep saying Black Clover, it is actually Black Crystal who is competing and who needs a game in hand in order to bring out a story, a chapter that me and Patchy potentially could see. And yeah, Miramar is could potentially be exactly that. Those long distance shots and positioning means that we could see some dramatic pause and surprise coming in from Comfy Six and Black Crystal. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens over there. So breather over here.
Yeah, these teams need to take a deep breath before they go into this one because, of course, we will be heading into map number 3 very, very shortly, and then we will be getting some potentially crazy action going because Miramar is a map where you can't just rely on the map to force
Mm.
things to happen. Unlike where Sanhok is really small and those zone rotations force fights to happen and force the rotations and whatnot and the gatekeeping. This map is a little bit different. You've got to make things happen for most of the game. And so we usually see teams trying to be a little bit more active, especially in that early game, create some good space there. And then, of course, we do see a lot of punishment for some of those rotations coming through based on the fact that those longer range angles are available to unlock and potentially give you some good action. So hopefully we see the teams taking advantage of that and making use of those long ranges that are available to them to deal a little bit of damage to those surrounding teams.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm hoping we're going to get a widespread of rotation. But I know for you, Patchy, you hate talking so much on the gameplay and on what could potentially be happening. And you want the action off the bat. You want to jump into the next fight. But I feel like we are going to get a widespread of teams on the map. And this could potentially mean, slow gameplay towards that start of this game number 3.
Yeah, that is quite true. We could be seeing a little bit of a slow start. I hope that that's not the case. I want to see those. I want to see those action-packed fights happening right off the bat. That's just how I like it. But in any case, we're going to see the natural killers heading down to that southern island there. I can't remember how many patchy points I give for dropping down there, but you know what? We'll just give them 1,000 for the sake of it, because I'm the king of patchy points, so I get to give whoever I want to give, however many points I want to give. So there we go. Natural killers getting some of that for themselves, but we do see some shots happening straight off the bat. You can see Kato and a couple of other players there on the side of the Infinity AF have taken a bit of damage. Solo has dropped right on top of them. This is quite a capable team. Once again, these guys don't have to do all that much, but they certainly can if they want to, and it seems like they do want to do a little bit here. So Samurai going to be bobbing and weaving up on the top of that floor as Light has turned their attention in that particular direction. It looks like they're looking for a fight, and I hope they give us one.
I hope they do indeed. This is at least will give us a little bit of a juice or motivation going into the mid game areas and so forth. So hopefully something does come out and about. Now I don't know exactly how close Lag Berserk and as well as Young Thunder Superior could potentially be, but you can see towards that left side that there is a potential maybe contestant that we are seeing over there for Light. These positions where they just grab a gun and that's going to be it for them. I feel like he needs to be looting up with the team. And there we go. You see, that's exactly what I was talking about. That Light has put himself in a tough position over here. He's now going to be taken out, and Solo have the advantage in terms of, who's positioned over here. But if you look at it in terms of what's happened right now, it's crazy.
Yeah, that's a little bit of an unfortunate one. He was a bit too keen for the fight and didn't really prioritize actually making sure he was at least somewhat prepared for it. So it did come back to bite him there a little bit. So it's a bit unfortunate. Now Solo Esports are in a pretty good position here. They've managed to fend off some of those players that were hungry for the kills, and now Mighty coming in for that res, that pickup there on his teammates is going to make things easier to fight against. I think Infinity AF do find themselves in a bit of a difficult spot, because if they don't have meds, and I'm sure that the meds that they've only been able to collect up till now is going to be quite limited, it's going to be difficult to take a prolonged fight here. So they really want to be careful. And of course, I think they're going to have to start thinking about getting rotated to somewhere else just to get some more loot and make sure that they're actually a little bit more prepared for the fight. Because if that engagement has told us anything, with Light, I think these teams will probably want to be a little bit more prepared than just picking up a gun and running across to a house full of enemies.
Yep, definitely could be the case. And Miramar, at least for the most part, it is a good. It is in a Sanhok, so these fights they take some time to come to an end, and they will go back in front, Even though the Solo have the advantage in terms of the numbers and so forth, it's too much to risk for. But I say it right now, Solo have already done well in the promotion relegation type of thing, and they can go and risk it for the biscuit, put on a show for us.
Yep, certainly can. Hopefully they do exactly that. For now, however, we're going to be waiting to see these teams and how they decided to take the rest of this game. We're going to be keeping our eyes peeled on the teams from, for instance, Young Thunder, from the Magicians, from Fear, from Natural Killers, Immortals, or Comfy 6, should I say. We'll see if they can actually get themselves up further up that leaderboard enough to actually push other teams down, because Ira, you suggested that could potentially be a possibility, and I think I am right with that particular idea. I'd like to see that happen. It would be very interesting to see if these teams can actually do it. So we'll be watching, we'll be keeping our eyes peeled. At the moment, nothing too crazy has happened just yet. No one has been eliminated, or no teams, should I say, have been eliminated as of yet. We've seen a little bit of an exchange, but nothing's heated up too yet. I think these teams realize that this is the final game for this week, and they don't want to get it to end too quickly.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, for the guys on the third and fourth page, there's a lot of pressure there for themselves. So we can't expect too much from them. And we wouldn't want to wish, G3, Rila Insiders, etc., to be going ham on EXO Redefined, Fear, MGC, and Black Crystal. So what I would want to see, however, is a clash between Rila Insider, G3, etc., taking such big hitters out of the lobby, so that it's not a fair distribution of heavy hitters in the game number 3 of Miramar, taking out a Rila Siders versus an MGC at the same time. We're having a G3 versus Fear. Those type of things are just gonna make the situation dramatic, and we're gonna have a heavy heart, going out to the teams that have done so well today in these 3 games, but to be taken out in such a sad story.
Yeah, it's always sad to see teams getting taken out, but it has to happen. It has to be the case if we're going to move on to the next round. So somebody has to get relegated. Somebody has to get taken out. The question is, who is it going to be? Who is going to be able to put the performance down enough to save themselves from relegation? In any case, we will have to wait and see who those teams are going to be. For now, the teams are just rotating around, making sure that they're getting their loot up and ready, because those fights are definitely coming, and they're going to get actually coming a lot sooner than they realized. The third-party shots, or at least the long-range shots from Swag's going to catch them out. The Young Thunder weren't expecting that at all, and now they've taken a little bit more damage than they were expecting to take. That is just the nature of this map. I mean, we talk about it a lot, but it is the reality. These long-range shots, they open up lots of angles that may be a little bit unexpected for these teams, and Swags has certainly capitalized on that particular thing.
Yeah, and now if Fear instills the fear into Young Thunders, this could be pretty pretty crucial for the team, because then it sets an easier target for Comfy Six to start working their way into the thing. And Fear Hulk actually dealing some damage to himself, jumping out of the vehicle in the wrong way. There's only one person who could do that, and that's James Bond.
Yeah. Well, we'll have a look and see. At the moment, Adams is actually just crawling away to safety as Fear just swarm across the the compound, take them out one by one, get that thirst in, and yeah, well, they've taken control. Young Thunder have decided to get out of there as quickly as possible because they realize it's probably not the greatest position to be in. We've got C Esports making their rotation down that road in towards those recently evacuated Young Thunder players. So we might just see some battles happening down there. And we've got actually a very nice shift coming down in towards the south. It's actually going to be very comfortable for a lot of these teams. That's not going to it's not going to force out the rotate just yet, which means they can actually continue with these fights. So here, Exo Redefined is right up with the players from the Sidemen, and the Sidemen do have the numbers advantage at the moment.
Yeah, definitely they do. And like for the most part, these things are just so tricky. Young Thunders are ungodlies. Now he has a lot of pressure on his shoulder. He needs to carry out the situation over here. But Exo, British, and Redefining Total are going up against Sidemen over here. It does look like British could have done a beam of note, but unfortunately he's opted in to go for the mana path over there. So fire set ablaze, and it does look like Sleepy is quite low on HP, and Prentice is just trying to get involved in with the grenades and so forth, trying to do as much as he can as well. But it's Sidemen who have also gotten a good spread of a team. Pablo could honestly get a beam over here, and he's keeping up those potential plays that could go into play. If Sean or Pritish just runs in the open, Pablo is there to deal the damage. But no, he does not know exactly what's happening. Sleepy, a bit sleepy here on his rotation, and there's a flank from Dope who manages to get that. Now Pablo and the team now getting close to each other, and Sean 50-50 against Matrix, and Matrix is able to win that. At least things are turning around, but it's quite a sweaty.
Yeah, Dope coming in on that flank, turning the tables just a little bit, giving Exo Redefined a little bit more space to try and make something happen. But here's G3. They're knocking on the door. They're like, hey, we hear there's a fight happening here. Let's get in on that action. Now Exo Redefined in a very difficult situation, trying to fight against the Sidemen, while G3 is coming in and just seeing what's going on. They're just going to be left to pick up the pieces here. G3 just going to pick up as many kills as they can. Pritch goes down, Matrix putting in the shots, but instantly getting exploded by G3 as they come into the situation. Yeah, they come to pick up as many kills as they can. G3 is ready to end this one off with a bang. They've been complacent for the last few games, but now they're ready to turn it up just a little bit more and show their players that they are still a team to contend with. Don't mess with us. G3 absolutely rolling over both of those teams that were taking the fight here in this compound.
Yeah, what a time to enter over there. And they managed to get in those eliminations. G3 obviously not happy with that second place as they moved down from the overall standings. They are active, they wanted the kills, and they could potentially be walking out with double-digit kills, eliminations on the game number 3 over here. And just think about the loadout that they've managed to get for themselves. But really, Insiders taking out Broly out from Comfy. Now, Comfy just sets into a question of what they can do for themselves. But a widespread of a team for Comfy 6 over here. And you can see Philly, he's taking the shots from Buden. Buden now gets that confirmation as well. And now Comfy 6 are just down to 2 set individuals, and this is not what you wanted for the team. We are rooting them to sort of come through with a clutch play. Here comes the rotation to say, let's W key, let's make it, because they potentially have seen the kill feed. They know that Chu is in that Comfy 6 is in a sticky position. He jumps out that vehicle. Chu is trying to get the disengagement right here. He jumps out of his vehicle, and now he's pinched into a single building, and they can really corner him up right here and put him into a little bit of a box and send back to the lobby. This is not what you want here for Comfy 6.
Oh no, it's not what you want at all. The last thing that you want to happen in your game when you're trying to get out of relegation is have G3 turn that switch on, because once that happens, it is GG for you. You're going to get sent back to that lobby very, very quickly. G3 looking to put up a little bit more of a fight this time, maybe hearing us just talk about, how they've been chilling back and relaxing. And then, of course, the Rila Insiders came to steal their position, and G3 were like, hold on a second. You
Mm.
can't do that. We're going to take that spot right back. So they're going into this one. But certainly the Insiders won't let them do it without a fight. So the Rila Insiders now coming up to defend their position on the top of that log. It's a bragging battle is what's going on at the moment. It's G3 versus Rila Insiders. Who's going to get that number one position at the end of this round? Well, we're about to find out. Tumac, of course, pushing up to try and get the res onto his teammates, which is going to be super, super important. But they are in the danger zone. They have to be super careful about that. Tomac taking a bit of damage there. And now G3 find themselves in a bit of a precarious position there. The Rila Insiders are very relentless right now. And that explosion is going to set them back quite a bit. Tomac, the last player for G3 alive. So G3 trying to come alive and steal back their location. And they realize, hold on, the Rila Insiders are not messing around right now. There's a reason that they are contending for that number one spot, and it's certainly not because they were given it for free. So Tomac just going to have to try and get that rotation out as quickly as possible, but getting the third-party shots coming through is going to make that difficult. Now the blue zone's even coming to make things worse, and oh man, this could not have been a worse upset for G3, who are trying to bring back a few points for themselves and reclaim their number one spot.
Yeah, man, this was just a bloodbath. G3 trying to fighting for, like you said, those bragging rights, and they were doing exactly that. They were coming through with the heat, taking out the Sidemen, and then now coming through with an almost team wipe for Comfy. But Squeak, he can take out Tomac. Tomac now trying to get in as much cover as he can, but at the same time trying to heal. But Squeak as well, he's looking quite low and now needs to take up the heals, as we saw True disengage from this entire battlefield that we are witnessing. There's a one-on-one situation that we could see with Tomac and Squeak, but Squeak doesn't look like he's taking up any kills, so his consumables are quite low, and it's Solo who potentially, I'm not sure. No, it's True with the flank. I thought he left, but he's still around. He's managed to get the team a kill onto the players that had sort of put them on a pinch of note. But now Squeak, without any of consumables in that blue zone, is going to be taken out. Hopefully, we get to see True get out of the blue zone into the safe zone, and he will get those placement points. It's going to be tricky, but it's possible.
Oh man, what a bit of chaos that we have just come to witness. Squeak going to get taken out by the blue zone. True, trying to get that vehicle going as quickly as possible. But man, what a strange way for things to go. G3 switching on, taking out two teams and doing what they do, capitalizing on the chaos and really coming in hot. And then, of course, Rila Insiders turning around and going, hold up, we took this number one spot and we're about to defend it, and taking them out. And then, of course, the Comfy Six coming in with the clapback on those last couple of players. But now the Insiders are rolling up on the Magicians, and Lag has come into the picture as well to try and claim some more points for themselves. It's just an all-out battle. Finally, these teams have decided to show up and do a little bit of playing here today. And the Magicians now find themselves under fire by the Rila Insiders, who've been doing a pretty good job of defending their title so far, and really want to end this round on a bang.
Yeah, really want to do that over there. MGC are in a position where they are going to be taken out here by Rilla Insiders. Rose and the Rids in them, they're just flying about and traveling in their vehicles. Paradox could be in a potential place where he could get revived over here, potentially. But Rids has a good area where he can now beam onto J Roller. And J Roller taking up a couple shots at hand, but he's going to get some cover with the smoke. And Rilla Insiders down to 3 men over here. They can't get the revive. Maybe MGC, if they're confident enough in their gun skill, just storm roll the team.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting battle here because, of course, the Rila Insiders do have that compound under their control, which is going to give them some good cover to utilize here. The Magicians, of course, do not have that same luxury, but they've got a little bit of, hills and rises to work with. Potentially True going to get taken out by the blue zone, so it's going to shape us down to 10 teams at the moment as the shots start to come through from 4KT in the kill feed there. The Rila Insiders still, of course, defending their position here from the Magicians, who are tossing those nades across to see if they can fish for any damage over onto the side of J, Roller, or Rao. We'll see if they can make it happen. At the moment, 4KT still in that kill feed, putting the shots in towards a risk, so he's going to go down. Lag up ahead is potentially able to put some third parties in towards the Magicians here. You have to be very, very careful because they are staging an assault on the Rila Insiders, but they're going to be fighting up against a team that has just come off the back of tearing through G3. Now up comes 4KT. This is the fight happening over towards C Esports here down towards the western side. Shots coming in from 4KT as they mount an assault on this compound here. So there seems to be quite a number of assaults across the map happening on these compounds here to try and steal away some favorable positions. But how long is it going to last? Because that blue zone is closing in. It has shifted down towards the southeast. That's going to be a little bit of a problem now. The Rila Insiders and the Magicians have to rotate. So there's going to be a bloodbath down here when these teams start to move past each other.
And this is exactly what we did see in Sanhok. Magicians just trying to a level best to gatekeep. They're going to be pinched again in the same situation. And it makes me wonder, don't they realize the mistakes they're making in each game and make a difference? But over here by 4KT, it is just grenade after grenade after grenade. And we are seeing that kill feed constantly show a difference in things. And yes, Eli and Aimer, I wonder if they managed to get any of the knocks, and they do so indeed, as now Eli has been taken out. But Vex, very low, he turns around and his teammate then takes the charge on terms of shooting over there, and it does look like for the most part they are happy. But a good thing is that, MTC do have the vehicles for them. They are getting tagged up quite a bit, and consumables are at hand going to be used. You can see now Paradox and Legacy jump out the vehicle yet again, and questions on what is happening, as now Black Crystal could potentially be getting involved over here. Natural Killers could also be getting some shots over here. A lot of people on the rotation, and you can see now Ash, he's going to be taken down by Roshi, as well as Paradox. He's out. He's also knocked here by Insider Row. So this is exactly what we were talking about just a moment before, where we said they're trying to gatekeep, they're trying to keep in the positions onto Rila Insiders, and that's just going to be a pinch of note onto them. Grenades are going to be thrown, and it's now just down to Legacy, where he needs now to clutch up because of the potential things that could be happening. But at the same time, we still have, Comfy 6, who didn't get enough of their players going into the end games, so they're not grabbing that much points. So this is not going to be a big mistake coming in for MGC, and they could potentially still be in that promotion standards of the overall leaderboard that we do have.
Yeah, what a bit of chaos that we just witnessed there. So many teams finding themselves in quite a pinch, quite a difficult situation, sandwiched with so many different angles there. 4KT Pronto just preparing some grenades to try and dunk on those players down below there. Everyone is in such close proximity, and those angles are just opening themselves up left, right, and center. 4KT just utilizing their space all over the map here to put the pressure on the surrounding teams, and everyone is fighting for their spots, fighting for those points, just to do whatever it is they do here. As you mentioned, Black Crystal trying to put a few points on the board to move themselves up out of relegation, and it's still definitely possible. They're in the top 5, but they're going to need a little bit more than that if they want to make it happen. They need at least like a chicken dinner and some good kills in the pocket to make it happen. So let's see if they can do it. Of course, Natural Killers now putting the shots in towards Titan. Not going to let them have it for free. Of course, that is just the whole point of this game right now. Natural Killers putting some shots across into a Black Crystal there. You can see Hulk also chiming in with some damage in towards Titan, who's trying to crawl down the side of the hill towards safety. 4KT finishing off the solo players, and there it is, just putting the nails in the coffin there of the team from Solo, reducing us down to 4 teams now in zone number 6. So things are moving pretty quickly here for these teams. Hopefully it continues in this, because this is just such a pressurized situation. It's like a pressure cooker of doom here. 4KT are rolling up towards the Natural Killers. Black Crystal still on the board with 3 of their players, but Zia is getting shot from a very far way away, and that's not the way you want things to go at all.
Yeah, and here you are, you're seeing Fear, with a very active leaderboard all the way from the beginning of game number 3 on to Young Thunder, and they're just getting into points. But no, Roshi as well from Natural Killers is just picking up that pace, and they're getting in the beams as well. And Roshi has just been a huge um, MVP for myself for this game in number 3, and you can see a couple sticky situations as now 4KT he runs straight into it's bad karma with an outcast of a grenade, and now he's being put into the back wall. Has 4KT now need to retreat in some way, form, or matter? We are down to 13 players and 4 squads on the board. A smoke grenade is going to be played over there so that they can get the cover to get the revive. It's Black Crystal down with 2 members, Natural Killers with 2, and Fear with a full squad. I wonder who else is still in here that we cannot potentially see. In fact, a full squad onto Fear as well, but a distributed players across the map to set that aggressive gameplay that we are witnessing.
Yep, the Natural Killers getting nice and aggressive for us here to try and push up on the one side. All of these teams are pretty much inside the zone except for 4KT. They just need to step a little bit more forward, but to do so would be to expose themselves to all of the teams up in front of them. You can see there is Fear and there's Natural Killers putting the shots in towards Fear. The Juicy with that LMG in hand is dishing out the damage. As soon as he spots out those players, the damage goes through 4KT, spotting out Black Crystal, who are now pinned down behind that smoke, but I'm not sure if that's going to be enough to save them at this point. The smoke's going down for absolutely everyone. The Natural Killers still strong with their players, but they're on the one side of this mountain, so they're using that as cover. Fear kind of sandwiched in between the two, so they're not in the greatest of situations because they've got everyone looking in their direction at the moment. Black Crystal just trying to stay out of the fight for as long as possible, but it's not going to be too long before they have to rotate, because in 40 seconds that blue zone is going to start to shift up once again, and they're going to be forced forward. 4KT now getting aggressive. Oh my word. Karma just going straight in for it. He doesn't even care that his team is straight behind him. He goes in with that molly. He just pushes straight up and sees if he can put any damage in, but he gets, the tunnel vision. He only spots the one out, and he gets taken out from the other side. 4KT losing one of their players to a very brazen push from Bad Karma, who was trying to get them in zone, trying to find them a foot in safety, and now they're forced to rush down the side of the hill themselves, pushing in and putting the suppressing fire down onto team from Fear, but they're just going to clap back instantly. The damage is too much to handle. 4KT, the unfavorable zone rotate is just going to mean that they do get taken out. Their demise is unfortunate, but the RNG was not in their favor, and here's Fear now with some good cover to try and capitalize on the rest of the 4KT players who are trying to stay alive here, putting the shots in towards the Natural Killers. Black Crystal still need to come into this fight, and 4KT are feeling that instantly. Pronto is just going to turn and take him down and eliminate Black Crystal and put them in 4th position. Now we've got 3 teams remaining. It's Fear, it's Natural Killers, and 2 players there from 4KT.
And man, talk about what a scene we are witnessing in the end game. Pronto still picking up those kills as well as Bad Karma, and it's just interesting to see exactly what the scenes are being like. Fear on the edge of zone, not trying to get involved of here. It's Osiris is now down left to a player, but it's Fear Swags who's gonna pick up an elimination onto Bad Karma. No confirmation just yet. Osiris just in the open, he's waiting for something to happen. He doesn't really mind though, but as it comes down to this final moment, the revive looks like it's gonna go into play, but it's Fear who's now gonna clean up things and get that winner chicken dinner, and this is definitely gonna help them in terms of soaring through that promotion where they were already situated in. Man, what a game we had on our hands for Miramar. It felt like we were in a Sanhok endgame.
Yeah, that was quite an intense finisher, and Fear did really, really well. 10 kills and 15 placement points for that chicken is going to be huge for them. I mean, they were a team that was struggling down in that relegation, and they have done very well today to push themselves out of that. Natural Killers actually doing well to get themselves 2nd place there in this game, which is a good number of points in their pocket. Some couple of kills scraped together as well, which is really great. I mean, these teams have done exactly what they needed to do. Game 1 was a little bit sus, I will give them that, but 2 and 3, they definitely came into their own and started putting those points on the board and moving themselves up out of that relegation spot. I'm very, very keen and interested to see what that final leaderboard looks like. But before we get there, of course, we're going to have to go through all the rigmarole of what it generally likes to see. So we're going to be looking at our standings. And of course, our MVP before we can get to those overall standings. But certainly, with a performance like that, I think we're gonna have to see. I'm not sure, but a couple of teams might have made it out. I think at least two of them or three of them might have made it out of that relegation.
Yeah, what we saw going into game number 3, that overall standings, I feel it's gonna stay the same because Comfy Six just didn't do too much that we expected out from them, and even for Black Crystal placing fifth, I don't think they picked up that much eliminations because they needed a boost of points to get into the position of the third page. But for Comfy Six, they were really close. They were like a hairline away from getting into the promotion, but unfortunately they had to find G3, and G3 in that moment, they were looking for heat, they were looking for eliminations because they definitely wanted that bragging rights of saying, I am first. And unfortunately they had to run into the Comfy Six players, and it was all down to True, and he was deep in the blue zone. I just didn't see him making it out of that zone. I didn't see any true player going towards placement points or whatever the case may be, and that's just going to be a wrap for the team. And what we did see in the beginning is potentially just going to be the same teams going into the final promotion. I don't know, Patchy, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think the teams did pretty well consistently throughout these 3 games. So I think the teams that did make it out already have probably secured their position in it because they've managed to repeat some performance and keep the points consistent at least. So I think they will definitely make it out. I'm not too sure if we're going to see anyone else make it out, but certainly it has been a very good set of games for the teams that did manage to make it out of that relegation zone. Of course, we're going to have to wait and see what that looks like to 100% confirm it. But definitely a little bit of a chaotic set of games that we've had here today. Quite intense towards the end. We had G3 turning it up just a little bit, finding themselves 2 quick eliminations on those teams that were fighting in the compound, and we really thought they were going to come alive then. And then Rila Insiders had something to say about it. It was G3 versus Rila. It was our top teams going at it for that top slot. And of course, Rila Insiders did end up winning that one. So they're going to keep their position up towards the top of that leaderboard. They're going to keep their number 1 spot for now in this round at the very least. Of course, when the round changes, we get to round 2, the scores will reset and the teams will have to prove themselves all over again, which is the joy of our round-based system. But with that said and done, of course, we are keenly awaiting to see exactly what we're looking at when it comes to those standings. And then we'll have a look and see which teams are actually going to get locked into that relegation. Because like you said, it's never nice. It's never fun. It's going to be a little bit of a sad time when we have to see some teams getting locked down in that relegation zone. But it has to happen. It's just the way things go. It's not the greatest, but we have to do it. We've got to do it.
You have to indeed. It is especially saddening to see if maybe Comfy Six in that relegation phase is because of what a powerful moment they started to the today. That game 1 winner chicken dinner, and they only winner chicken dinner for the season 4 of Umzansi. But yeah, the way they started, it looked like they were very comfortable and confident going into it. I mean, even going into Sanhok, they did grab a decent placement, but it was those kill points that were lacking in that area. So it was just the GGs from Comfy Six. But hopefully, some way, some magical way, they make it. But I really don't see it. The maths are screaming at me. I'm confident in my maths right now, Patchy. But yeah, the maths are screaming at me saying, they haven't done so.
Yeah, I'm not I'm not very well known for being like the ultimate the maths guy. So I'll leave the maths to the standings sheets to see if we could actually they could do the maths there. I'll leave it to them. But as for the MVP, let's talk about that a little bit. Who do you think has actually picked that MVP up? I'm not too sure which team actually picked up the most kills, but I do believe those chicken dinner winners picked up about 10. So I think the MVP might be coming there.
I think of MVP is definitely going to be on Swags. I don't know. I saw Swags really do a number this map, and he was active in terms of that very last moments as well. So I just kept seeing Swags into the kill feed over there. So for me, I think it's him who, really did the most for game number 3.
Yeah, I think he did definitely put in some serious work to get that MVP. So we'll see if he has done so. I see a lot of the teams have like they've got two kinds of players. They've got the heavy hitters who just deal out the damage, like big time HP bar kind of damage, and then you got the finishers who really just finish the players off. Get those thirsts in, make sure that the confirmed kills come
Yeah,
through for the team. So you can sometimes see a little bit of a disparity there. So yeah,
true,
I guess we'll
true.
have to wait and see who is that MVP, who's actually going to come through for us in that match, our third and final match. So let's swish on over to those standings and see. This is game number 6, which is the final game for today. It's Fear coming in number 1, of course, with that chicken dinner plus the 10 kills, giving them that 25 for KT coming up there with 23. So just reinforcing that. Really good to see Fear just zooming their way out of that relegation and keeping themselves there. The Natural Killers also putting in a good number of points for themselves, keeping them out of relegation as well. So I don't think we'll see them there. Black Crystal putting in 11 points for themselves. So maybe we'll see them move up, but I don't think it's going to be enough to get themselves out of relegation, which is unfortunate for them. They did put in a good showing here in the final game. Ultimately, it wasn't enough, but at least they put the points in. And of course, as we move into that second page, the Magicians scraping together a couple of points to keep themselves away from relegation as well. So I think they'll be safe. Comfy 6, 2 points for them. I don't think that's enough. I think I'm in agreement with you there. I'm not too sure if that's going to be enough to get them out of relegation. Exo Redefined certainly picking up only 1 point is not going to have enough to do it. So game 6 looking a little bit tough for some of the teams that were hoping to put some more points on the board, but they just weren't able to find what they were looking for. Unfortunately, some of the bigger teams did decide to step up a little bit. We had the likes of 4KT and G3 running around kind of crazy. Speaking of 4KT, it's actually going to be 4KT picking up the MVP as well. Aimer sporting 6 kills and 1,076 points of damage done. Survival time of 23 minutes and 57 seconds to give himself the MVP for that match. So we were both a little bit off the mark there, Aaron.
Yeah, definitely off the mark, and GG's to Aimer. I mean, they were very much active going into the thing, and they came out third or second. No, they came out third in that one, where you did see them, do everything they can possibly. But yeah, GG's, to the teams, and I think we are looking now at the final standings, and amazing to see, Rila Insider come through with the today's performance and grabbing that first place.
Yeah, a little bit of a flex coming out from Rila Insiders just to say, hey, listen, guys, we can take that number 1 slot. You better take us seriously. And I think the teams there from, for instance, G3, 4KT, Zero Tolerance, KHK, they're going to be taking them pretty seriously moving into round number 2. So I can't wait to see the rivalry that is brewing between these top teams, because the performances from our Nkosi teams from like KHK and C Esports and Rila Insiders has been absolutely impressive so far this season. So there is definitely some rivalry brewing between our Umzansi and promoted Nkosi teams. But of course, as we move down the list, we see our solo esports team who has maintained their position here on page number 2. They are very much safe from relegation, along with the Infinity AF as well as the Sidemen. They are nice and safe. Lag Esports as well, safe from relegation, no problems for them. Of course, moving on to the next page is going to be the ultimate kicker, because this is going to tell us who has 100% confirmed made it out of that relegation. So let's take a look there. So straight off the bat, we see Fear has moved themselves into position 17. So they are definitely safe and good to go. Natural Killers as well have secured themselves safety out of that relegation zone. Sincerity Esports, of course, not getting pushed down like we predicted, so they are also safe. The Magicians having taken themselves up into position number 22 with 99 points. Team Unique also has 99 points, so they are very close on that one. Young Thunder has also managed to scrape their way out with 98 points there in position number 24, which does, of course, mean that all the rest of the teams that we're going to find on our final relegation page are going to be starting from position number 25. It's Immortals. It's Comfy 6 in 26, Black Clover in 27. We've got Exo Redefined in 28, Black Crystal in 29, Toxic Esport in 30, and Ultra 6 in position 31. So unfortunately for the Comfy 6 and for teams like XO and Black Crystal, it just wasn't enough to get themselves out of relegation.
Very, very close. Comfy Six needed about just 11 points or even 10 points, no, 12 points just to make themselves into the position of, the promotion stages. And it wasn't possible because of G3, and they went out with a bang. I would say, for me, congratulations to how you performed, and they played to their very best to the very last minute, and I'm hoping that we get to see them do well in the promotion relegation of the Inkosi teams as well.
Yeah, well, there it is. We have seen what we have seen today. The shots have been insane. The maps have been really crazy. Some of them a little bit messy. But here it is, our kill leaders, of course, at the end of this week's games. It's Rila Insiders sporting Zeke with 45 kills, 6,491 points of damage there. We've got 4KT sporting Fex and 5 with 42 kills and 7,600 points of damage out of Fex. That man is absolutely nuts there with that damage. Of course, 5 pulling 7k of his own with 33 kills. And of course, G3 with Buden, 34 kills and 6,313 points of damage. So these guys have really been pumping out the numbers so far this season. And it has been really, really exciting to watch these guys work. It's always fun when we see those teams turn on in a huge way and really show us what they're made of. And of course, we did see a little bit of that showing through today as well as we ended off with this week's games. So thank you so much, guys, for joining us. Be sure to check out Nodwin Gaming on all the socials and, of course, on nodwingaming.africa on the website, where you find all the things that you could be looking for, whether it is sign-ups or the VODs or anything that you're looking for. You can go check that out and make sure that you are up to date with what's happening. So with that, thank you so much, guys, for joining us. We will hopefully see you in the coming weeks. At the same time, goodbye.